All right, so today we're diving into something that I think a lot of our listeners can relate to.
Yeah.
It's those ups and downs of learning English.
Oh, for
But we're
sure.
going to go deeper
Okay.
than just, the basics.
Mm-hmm.
We're really going to look at some practical strategies for
Right.
not just the learning, but also cultivating like that
Yeah.
patience with yourself along the way.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. And our guide today is this really interesting teacher named Sam,
Okay.
and they share some really great advice in a recent article.
Awesome.
And I think the core message
Yeah.
is that learning a new language,
Mm-hmm.
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, it really is.
And a little self-love goes a long way.
I love that.
So one of the things that really stood out to me in Sam's article
Okay.
was how they nailed the time factor.
Oh, yeah.
Like we live in a world of instant gratification,
Totally.
but language acquisition just doesn't work that way.
It's true. It's
Yeah,
like you
right.
can't just download it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, I want to be fluent and
Right. It takes time.
and poof, you are.
Yeah, and it's about consistency.
Yes.
Too. It's like growing a garden, you know?
I love that analogy.
You have to nurture it. You can't just
Yeah.
like plant a seed and expect
Yeah.
a beautiful blooming flower the next day.
You got to water it.
Yeah,
You got to
you-
give it sunlight.
Yeah.
You got to
Exactly.
give it the right conditions
There you go.
to grow.
Yeah. And speaking of, those small steps,
Yes.
another thing that Sam talks about is honoring those small victories.
Yes.
And I think this is so important because it's so easy to get caught up in like, I'm not fluent yet,
Right.
or I made this mistake.
Yes.
But really, it's about celebrating those small wins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like instead of
Yeah.
aiming for these flawless conversations right away,
Right.
what if you just celebrated like mastering a new tense?
Exactly. Or like
Yeah.
understanding a podcast without subtitles.
Or finally figuring out that sound that you just
Yes.
could not get.
Oh my gosh, pronunciation.
Yes.
That's a huge one.
Those are the building blocks.
Those are the things that build up to fluency.
It's so true. And I think this is
Yeah.
a great example of the growth mindset in action.
Oh, absolutely.
Like every tiny step forward, it really does rewire our brains.
Yeah.
And it builds that confidence and that resilience.
I think about it like learning to ride a bike.
Oh, yeah.
Like those wobbly first attempts,
Yeah.
You fall a couple times, but eventually you get that freedom.
You get that mastery.
Exactly.
You're just like cruising down the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it feels amazing.
It does. And
Yeah.
you don't even think about it.
Right. It becomes second nature.
Yeah.
And it's the same with language.
Sam also talks a lot about the importance of staying positive.
Yeah.
And I think this is so key because
Yeah.
it's so easy to get discouraged when you're learning a new language.
Absolutely.
But focusing on your progress, it really does help to keep you going.
100%.
Yeah.
And there's actually science behind this. Really?
There have been studies that show a direct link between positive self-talk
Wow.
and learning effectiveness.
So it's not just like a
It's not just like a
feel-good thing.
Yeah,
It actually impacts how you learn.
exactly. Like when you believe you can improve,
Yeah.
you're more likely to push through those challenges
Right.
and retain the information.
So like it makes you think twice about all those negative self-criticisms we give ourselves.
Totally, because it's like
Right.
you're actually hindering your progress
Yeah.
when you're constantly putting yourself down.
One of the things that I thought was so interesting in the article was Sam's suggestion to keep a language learning journal.
Journaling is such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And it's not just for tracking your progress.
Oh, really?
It's also for becoming more aware of your learning patterns.
I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, like you can use prompts.
Oh, interesting.
Like, what did I struggle with today?
Oh, that's good.
Or what surprised me about how I use English today? And it really helps to turn those fleeting thoughts
Yeah.
into concrete insights.
Yeah, I love that because it's like
Yeah,
having a dialogue with your own learning process.
exactly.
And I think a lot of people think that journaling is just like about grammar rules or vocabulary,
Yeah.
but it's so much deeper than that.
It is. It's about understanding yourself
Yeah.
as a learner.
And how you learn best.
And I think another benefit of journaling
Yeah.
is that you can look back and see how far you've come.
Oh, yeah.
And that sense of accomplishment
Mhm.
is incredibly motivating.
Yeah.
And it can fuel even greater progress.
And it reinforces those small wins that Sam was talking about.
Right.
It's so true. So to wrap things up,
Yeah,
it seems like the key takeaway here is to embrace the journey,
absolutely.
celebrate every milestone,
Yes.
and remember that learning English is about progress,
Yes.
not perfection.
Love it.
And as you continue on your language learning journey,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the things that you would recommend to our listeners?
I think it's so important to create a supportive learning environment for yourself.
Okay.
So whether that's journaling,
Yes.
practicing mindfulness,
Okay.
or simply just celebrating those small wins,
Mm,
I think it's important to remember that self-compassion is your greatest ally.
I love that. And I think that's something that we can all take with us,
Yeah,
no matter what stage we're at in our language learning journey.
absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining me today.
It was my pleasure.
I always learn so much from our conversations.
Me too. It's always fun.
And for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
how can you incorporate journaling or some of these other mindfulness practices into your own language learning?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what you come up with.
Yeah.
So until next time, happy learning, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.